Hi, Empress Justice here, and welcome to another segment called Empress Justice Magic, where I talk about all things manifestation and especially the darker side of manifestation. But before I get into this week's video, let me preface by talking about my 20% off all private services during the month of February. That is for the general public, and for my targeted individual customer base, you get 25% off all private services, including tarot readings, astrology, and magical services. Okay, so if that sounds good to you, if you are a member of the general public, you can email empressjusticetarot77@gmail.com. The details will be in the description of each video. And if you are a targeted individual, the email address for that is realjusticetarot@gmail.com. Again, all the details will be in the description of each upload. Okay? Now, oh no, before I get to that, I always forget this part. If if you make any inquiries about my services and find them a bit too pricey, you can always donate or pay what you feel for my online readings at paypal.me/empressjustice. £5 or more would be nice, but you can donate what you can. I always appreciate donations. I always appreciate my customer base. So thank you for your continued support, and thank you for everything that you've done so far and everything that you continue to do. Now, with that in mind, let's get to today's video, courtesy of Empress Justice Magick. Now, the subject matter I'm going to cover for today is going to be karma and manifestation work. Now, the reason why this is under Empress Justice Magick and not Empress Justice Soul, that's coming up, is because that it discusses some very deep subject matter. So here's a trigger warning. It is going to discuss some pretty disturbing subject matters, and it is going to cover magic, the occult, and it's going to cover some very controversial subjects regarding sacrifice and in some cases torture. It's going to be lightly touched on. So if any of that kind of talk triggers you, especially in a spiritual video, then please feel free to move on and not watch the video, because it's not going to be for everybody. Now, karma and manifestation work are heavily interlinked. But before I get into how they're interlinked and how they impact the strength of somebody's manifestation work, first, I have to get into what karma is and what manifestation work is. So first of all, what is karma? Karma in the dictionary is defined within Hinduism and Buddhism of the sum of a person's actions in past experiences, which decides their fate in future experiences. This isn't just your past in this life, it's also your past lives. So all the behavior of your past lives impact the lives that you have right now. So everything from your past lives, theoretically, it impacts the life that you live right now. Okay. And the life that you live right now impacts future reincarnations that you have. Okay. Now, informally, it can mean good or bad fortune depending on your actions. So all of this is a textbook dictionary definition of karma. But the truth is, karma is a little bit more complex than that, okay? What karma really is an energetic exchange. Karma exchanges destined energy. It exchanges pure energy. What is destined and pure energy? Destined and pure energy is simply your emotions and your actions. It is also, like a subgroup of that, is what you know and what you want, what you intend, what you desire, right? So that is your destiny. Your destiny lies in what you know and what you want, and in what you feel and what you do. And the stronger all of these four quadrants are, it's the stronger that your manifestation is going to be. Now, your purest self is the self that feels, that does, that knows, and that wants, right? That is the purest manifestation of yourself. What you know, what you want, what you do, and how you feel. All of those things comprise of the purest aspects of who you are. And it is all of these things that ultimately decide who and what you are destined to be. All right. Now, there is a disconnect among normal human beings between emotions and actions because we live in a world where we are taught to over-identify with our physical selves. In other words, we are taught to align our minds with what's going on out here, right? We're taught to align our minds with what's going on out here, with the nature of our circumstances, rather than aligning our minds with our emotions or aligning our bodies with our actions. So instead of actually separating our body and mind like we're supposed to do, we actually unite them together in a sort of, and create a sort of narcissistic environment where the only use we can be of to one another is on a surface level basis. So that's why there's such a disconnect between our knowledge and emotions and our desires and our actions, right? And being uneducated, it doesn't mean that your emotions and your actions are aligned with each other. Like, it doesn't mean that at all. Like, uneducated people are not pure. Don't let nothing fool you. Yeah, like, you can be educated and be pure in your destiny, just like you can be uneducated and not pure in your destiny. In fact, the more you know is the more likely you are to be in line with destiny. Okay? Now, this is the thing about destiny. The more selfless it is towards whatever it is that you want, is the more pure and the more powerful the manifestation is going to be. Now, that is actually a very different enterprise from karma, because purifying your karma, it means, I'll get to that in a minute actually. That's actually a very different enterprise from purifying your karma. Creating powerful and pure manifestation relies upon you being absolutely selfless towards what it is that you're trying to manifest. So if I want something, what am I prepared to give what I want? It's like you being in a relationship with another person. I like you and I want you. What does the person that I want like? What do they want? Like, your manifestation is the same thing. If you're manifesting something, then what does that manifestation want from you? What are you prepared to give up? That is essentially the basics of magic, the basics of manifestation. If you are going to manifest something and you want something, then what are you prepared to give up in order to get it? That's the truth of the situation. Now, a lot of people mistake selflessness. I'll get to that in a moment. A lot of people mistake selflessness for sacrifice. Selflessness means being prepared to give anything and everything, like willingly. That's selflessness. Sacrifice means having to give something up when you absolutely do not want to. It means having to be in pain, discomfort, or even create death in order to get what you want. That's sacrifice. Selflessness is a completely different thing, right? So selflessness, what really selflessness is integrity. Like, it's you being able to, it's you being so willing to give so much for what you want that when you have to give those things up, it doesn't actually affect you like that. You can accept it. That's selflessness. That's integrity, right? And integrity can sometimes be very different from cleansing your karma. And I'll explain why in a second. Now, when it comes to karma banking, I call this karma banking, right? So when you're talking about karma banking, you're talking about debts, assets, and investments. A karmic deficit, which I will explain in a moment, is a debt. An asset is karmic energy, purified energy. And investments are what you put that pure karmic energy into. Now, again, I've explained that self-sacrifice and integrity are very different things. Integrity is selflessness towards destiny, and that doesn't always lead to purified karma because, again, integrity is talking about what you are willing to give up without question, right? And if you're willing to give something up without question, then the discomfort is relatively minimal in the long run. Because if you're acting from a place of integrity, then what are you really sacrificing? You're not really sacrificing anything, because you've already made up your mind that you're going to give up certain things for what you want. So integrity can be very, very different from self-sacrifice. Whereas self-sacrifice is literally going through disappointment, discomfort, or even pain for what you want, or for interests that are not immediately aligned with your own. Okay? Where magic is, hang on, hold on, before I get to magic. Belief, the belief of karma, the karmic exchange, is that those who have easier material and emotional futures ahead of them, like easier material and emotional incarnations, like they have easier lives, it's believed that in previous lifetimes they had purified their karma through pain, through suffering, through good deeds, all that type of stuff. So that's the belief of people who believe in karma. Now, going off of that, now I'm about to explain to you what a karmic deficit is. A karmic deficit is something that takes away from your good karma. So the qualities that create a karmic deficit are narcissism, sociopathy, or psychopathy. Let's be clear, I am not talking about the illness, because narcissistic people who are diagnosed narcissistic, diagnosed diagnosed psychopathic, diagnosed sociopathic, a lot of those people are not evil. Like, there are a good chunk of people with antisocial personality disorders that have actively not only sought help, but done their very best to help others. So when I bring up these dark qualities, I'm not talking about the illness. What it boils down to is extreme selfishness. So that's the first thing that puts you in a karmic deficit. Extreme selfishness. The second thing that puts you at a karmic deficit in this life is having a very pleasant material and emotional life. Okay? So those two things are what place you in a karmic deficit. So if you're born into a world of privilege in this life, you come off the back of having good karma from your previous lives, yes, but it also means that you are in karmic deficit now because you're hoarding everything for yourself. So in order to reclaim that karma and get yourself out of that deficit, you have to be more self-sacrificing and you have to give to others. Okay? Now, this is where we come into magic, the subject of magic. Magic essentially is placing yourself in a karmic and energetic debt. That's essentially what it is. If you're already in a deficit and you create even more of a deficit by practicing magic, it means you've got a debt to pay. It means you've got debt upon debt to pay. But hear what, right? What a lot of rich people do is they do not spend their own money. They do not spend their own money in much the same way the most powerful sorcerers in the world do not spend their own karma. So they're already at a karmic deficit, but they're not spending their own karma in order to manifest what they want. They're borrowing karma all the time, because not only do they have to ask for what they want, they have to gain it from spiritual entities that will help them. Those spiritual entities demand energetic output to be able to do what they're doing. That energetic output comes from love. So if you are a genuinely loving person, in both your feelings and your actions, you may find that manifesting might come a little bit easier to you, and you might not have to go through as much discomfort in order to manifest what you want, because you're already a very loving person. And, you know, the entities that you are giving that energy to, they're less likely to create havoc and chaos in your life. It's for this reason why a real witch will never go around flossing like that. It's because they're not about to borrow God knows how much pure energy pushing their luck. They've still got to stay on the good side of karma. So You know, and that's why you see in fiction that witches never take more than they need, or they're not supposed to take more than they need, because it's a karmic output thing. When you take more than you need, you leave yourself in karmic debt. But let me come back to the karmic deficit and magic. When you perform a magic ritual, you put yourself in further debt, especially if you are not an unconditionally loving person, and especially if your karmic output is not doing so hot. Okay? So there's a debt that has to be paid when you decide that you're going to get what you want through magic. There's a debt that has to be paid. And it has to be paid quite often with pain, discomfort, disappointment, or even death. This is where it gets disturbing. Karma gained from all of the above is literally used for magic work the next time around. So people who are already at a spiritual deficit, what they do is, if they are not in a position of being loving or being kind, then what they will do is they will sacrifice something that they will either sacrifice something that really means something to them in small number, or they will sacrifice things or people that don't mean anything to them in larger numbers. That's why the state of the world is what it is right now. That's what people in leadership do. Do you understand? Either they will sacrifice something that means something to them personally, or they will sacrifice something innocent, or they will sacrifice something that means something to them in larger numbers. That means nothing to them, but in larger numbers. And that's how they pay the debt to these entities that want to borrow that want to give them magic, or that are operating the magical rights for them, that are helping them to manifest stuff. It's disturbing shit, but that's the truth, right? So again, the same way the rich people don't use their own money, the most powerful manifestors on the planet do not use their own karma. All right. Karma, and on top of that, karma gained from the pain, discomfort, and death of things that they love or things that they care about, that's gained karma. Do you understand? Because it's all about duty. It's all about sacrificing your own benefit in order to get this thing. So the more you sacrifice your own benefit, is the more karma you gain. So what you do with that karma is that you replenish it into another ritual for another time, right? That's what you do with the karmic debt. So the sacrifices are creating the karmic debt. Well, the sacrifice of other people and other people's worth is the karmic debt. That puts you in a further karmic deficit. And the pain and the heartache or the disappointment or the death that you go through, it eases some of that deficit because you're going through pain and it's going against your interest, against your own happiness. So as much as it does not play into the secret at all, because the secret is more about your happiness, it actually cleanses your karma. The more you do things that do not directly benefit you and benefit other people other than yourself, is the more that you replenish your karma. That's what nobody tells you. That's why you have like these lunatic religious people, you know, they torture specific groups because they misinterpret karma. Basically, they misinterpret the idea that pain cleanses your karma. So what they do is they use that as an excuse to torture people, which is fucking foul beyond all reckoning. But let me move on. So if you are on an energetic deficit and you don't offer up something that is satisfactory to the entities that are providing that ritual for you, your life is in shambles because you don't have unconditional love in your heart. So the second you step outside that circle, the second you step outside that magical circle, havoc. If the magical entities are not satisfied with the sacrifice that you've put forward, chaos is the result. And because you're not unconditionally loving and these entities cannot feed from you, they might create chaos in your life anyway. So it's a very dodgy, it's a lot, man. Like there's a lot that I know that is just very disturbing and very dark about magic. But again, magic is simply, it's simply consuming more natural resources than you have. Like magic is the same as anything in this world. We're consuming more from the earth than the earth has. And magic does the same thing. That's all it is. But in that simplicity, there is so much wrong that has been done in the world in the name of getting what we want. And yeah, I love magic, but like, it's not something to play with. Okay. So the same way rich people don't use their own money, people who are powerful in the craft, they don't use their own karma. They borrow against their own deficit. So you've got the purity of manifestation, which is dependent on the purity of the sacrifice, but also the purity of one's integrity. So both sacrifice and integrity have to play a part when it comes to what you are attempting to manifest. And the bigger what you ask for is the more the purity of sacrifice and the purity of integrity, love, sacrifice, and truth, integrity, the more that, the bigger the purity of the love and truth have to be. If you're a lying, dishonest twit, then you're going to have difficulty, especially if you're working with Baneful Magick, right? Now, again, what I've said before is that if you do not offer up a satisfactory sacrifice for these entities that have created this magic for you, a sacrifice will be taken from you. And even then, there's no guarantee that they won't still create chaos anyway. Okay? Now, the best way around that, and this is something that a lot of public figures do, is that they feel and do things that are not of automatic benefit. Now, this isn't just about charity and good deeds. It can also be about working in a profession that brings joy to masses of people. I'm going to use Beyonce as an example. Now, apparently, from what I've heard of Beyonce, she takes magical and manifestation work to a place that is incredibly dark and negative. And I've heard lots of stories about like how she killed somebody's cat, that she was harassing somebody or assaulting somebody. Like I've heard like rumors of her engaging in gang stalking. But where she has taken that energy, she's turned that incredibly negative energy and that karmic deficit, and she's turned it into a form of entertainment that makes a huge cultural impact for all Black people. So basically, she's taken this really shallow art form of pop music and she has used it to benefit billions of Black people globally. That is what she has chosen to do with the magic that she took to a dark place. And let's be clear, Jay-Z and Beyonce might have done a lot of fucking dirt, but what they've done in turn is they've benefited their community in unforeseen ways with decades of work. Do you understand? Lady Gaga's had similar accusations aimed at her. Very disturbing things with the girl apparently that she, somebody, you know what I mean? Done a lot of dark things, but she turned that into a way to help, marginalized communities. This is the reality of magic and the reality of karmic exchange that nobody really wants to deal with and nobody wants to talk about. People who get to the top of the tree, people who become famous, these are not good people that you're dealing with. They're not good people. They're not fucking lambs. None of them are fucking good people. But because of the karmic exchange of them like taking all this power and then putting it back into benefiting billions of people with their art and with culture, they're cleansing their karma by doing that. They're building up karmic energy to be used for another ritual. That's what they're doing. And that's the type of shit that it takes to fucking be able to manifest stuff and keep your ass out of trouble. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the disturbing part of all this. Like, when you really start to see how karma and manifestation work, it makes you look at the world in a whole new way, and it makes you think to yourself, well, fuck, like, whew, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. That's all I'm going to say. So, like I said before, just like rich people borrow money from banks against themselves to stop, to not spend their money, the most powerful sorcerers in the world borrow karma against their own energetic purity, even if they're at a deficit. It's about monetizing your debt. It's about turning your debt into an asset and then investing that asset into something else. And with karma and manifestation, with karma and magic, that's no different. Okay? And like I said, it's a very disturbing reality that we live in, but that's the reality. Okay? Now, we have to get to manifestation. Now, what is manifestation? Like I've said before, your destiny is mapped out by your feelings, your emotions, what you know, and what you desire, right? So your destiny is mapped out by these things. And it is your destiny that forms the crux of what you manifest. Okay? They form your beliefs and they form what you manifest in the world, what you expect to see, right? So what manifestation is creating the desired effect based on the purity of your feelings, actions, knowledge, and intentions. Okay. Now you can do this through ritual magic, like I do. You can do this through religious rites. You can do this through vision boards. You can do this through like prayer, but it has to be something that you believe will work. It has to be something that you absolutely believe in when you do these things. That's the caveat. You have to really believe in the method of manifestation that you're creating here. Although, truth be told, you don't need all of these things to manifest. It just heightens the believability factor. But sometimes believability, strengthening the purity of your destiny and the purity of your energy, it can be as simple as having integrity. So integrity and self-sacrifice are different, but integrity of feeling, action, knowledge, and intention, it can really heighten the believability of what you're creating. And once the believability is heightened, it heightens the strength of your manifestation, right? So you got to believe it. And this is one of the reasons why people engage in ritualism, because more tangible desires feel closer to the present moment. So the more you engage tangible stuff, like in your works, in your prayer, in your ritual works, the more you incorporate tangible stuff in it, is the more real that your manifestations will feel to you, and the more likely they will be to come to pass quicker and stronger, right? Now, juxtaposed against karma, we've got to talk about what it is that you get back when you manifest something. Now, I'm going to talk about this in the context of baneful magic, or magic designed to give you something rather than somebody else something. The first thing we have to understand is everything we feel, everything we do, everything we know, and everything we want has consequences. The consequences do not have to be bad. That's the truth. The consequences do not have to be bad. It's just a cause and effect thing. All actions and feelings and desires and knowledge, they all have results. And results can differ depending on the person. When it comes to bad consequences that come from baneful magic, there are some that feel it earlier than others. There are some that feel it harder than others. So baneful magic is much like, abuse, bullying, or violence. Like, there are some who get it earlier and harder than other people do. There's a hierarchy that ensures that happens. There are several hierarchies that ensure that happens. But all actions have consequences. It doesn't matter who you are, you know? So when you perform any kind of baneful magic against someone else, when you perform any magic that involves selfishness, that involves, because the thing is, when you create selfish magic, even though you don't mean to, you're actually taking something from other people in order to do it. So even if the spell doesn't really work the way you want it to, you don't just get back what you did and what you felt, you also get back what you desired juxtaposed against what you knew. Meaning, if you're performing baneful magic against someone and you know it's wrong, but you wanted it anyway, it means that what you desired to bring out in that person by doing what you did is going to come back to you times 3 at least, if not times 4. Okay? Even if you are simply defending yourself, that's why, that's another thing that abusive people do. When you try to, if you're the type of person, because there are a lot of you out there that perform baneful magic against people who fuck with you, right? There are some abusive people who will use this principle to deter you from standing up for yourself. Well, if you do that against people, if you bounce all your negativity back, you get it back times 3 or times 4. Yes, you do. But if I slap somebody in the face for fucking with me, like if somebody messes with me and I slap them in the face and then I get it back like 3 to 4 times worse or something like that, and I, not just the actions, but what I made people feel when I fucking slapped them, if I get it back, does that mean that I was wrong for defending myself? Of course not. Of course it doesn't mean that. But all actions have consequences. And sometimes you have to have enough integrity to say, you know what, I know I'm going to pay for this, but I'm going to fucking do it. That's self-defense. That's laying a boundary. In fact, laying boundaries, you can get your get back from that. You can pay the consequences of that too. Just in simply laying your boundaries and being strong and being assertive, even that has consequences. But it doesn't mean it's worth doing. Baneful magic for attention, on the other hand, baneful magic for, hurting your feelings, that's another matter altogether, right? And if what you wanted or intended juxtaposed against what you knew, if there's a conflict there, you're going to get that back times 3 or times 4. You're going to get that back. In biblical times, it says times 7. In biblical scripture, it says times 7. So you're going to get everything that you try. Like, you don't just get back what you did and what you felt while you were doing it. So like, if you were hexing somebody just because, you wanted them to be upset, if you were doing that because you wanted them to be upset and you felt good about doing that because you wanted to be upset, then somebody will do 3 or 4 times worse to you, feeling 3 or 4 times more gleeful, right? And then on top of that, if you knew what you were doing was wrong, you get 3 times, 4 times amount, as much wrong back. Again, in biblical scripture, it's 7 times 7. So you get all that shit back. You get all of it back. And even when you perform selfish magic, like I do sometimes, I perform magic if I want something. Like if I want, I don't know, if I want something to, I don't know, if I want a new book or something. If I like if I want a new book or something, or if I want like everything that I manifest, I've had to take from someone else in order to manifest. So I've got to pay that back at some point. I can't just have what I want and then not pay it back. Do you understand what I mean? So if you perform selfish magic or baneful magic, it means you're taking from someone else, and it means that has to be paid back at some point. Now, the role of integrity means that those with integrity can accept it, and those without integrity cannot. Those with integrity are less likely to go through pain. and therefore are less likely to gain karma from from what they've manifested. They're less likely to gain karma, right? Those who cannot accept it, they leave themselves in greater pain, which ironically cleanses their karma. So what they can do with that is that they can put it back into their manifestation work, just keep putting it back, keep putting it back. But again, they're going to get it back. It doesn't matter what they've done, or, it does matter, like, the intentions and the feelings and all of that. It doesn't matter what you thought was going to happen. You're going to get it back one way or another. Right? And I feel like that's actually another reason why so many wealthy people and powerful warlocks and witches like actually do so well with their spell work, is because they cannot accept, they don't have integrity. They cannot accept it. And therefore the lack of acceptance, it brings them more pain. Do you understand what I mean? Or, not always. Sometimes delusion can make you feel better. Actually, no. 9 times out of 10, delusion makes you feel better about yourself. So yeah, that's another deficit. Integrity is truth, which cleanses your karma. So I got to correct that. So if you have integrity, you're less likely to suffer than somebody who can't accept it, because somebody who can't accept it is lying to themselves. That's delusion. That's lack of truth, karmic deficit. Whereas somebody who has integrity, who is rooted in the truth, they have karmic energy paid to them. Like, I was just relating it in terms of pain, but pain isn't the only thing that karma considers in an energetic exchange. Like, it's not just about pain, it's also about love, and it's about truth. And the more loving and truthful you are, that's also something that gives you back your karma. So it's not just self-sacrifice, it's also love and truth as well. Okay, so I got to correct myself on that. The more you have integrity is the more of your karma that is actually paid back to you. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. I don't always get it right all the time, but when I'm right, I'm right. So yes, those who get, those who are inflicted with pain. So it's not just love and truth, although that has a large part to do with cleansing your karma. It's also about how much pain you go through and how much obligation you are subjected to. People who go through this the first and the hardest will experience the most cleansed karma, right? And the more your karma is cleansed, is the more energy you have for magic. That is one of the people who are marginalized now, they had all this richness and all this genius before they were marginalized, right? But it explains why a lot of marginalized groups are still here and still present and gaining more and more representation with each empire. They're gaining more and more reputation, because not reputation, representation. They're gaining more and more of it with each empire. It's because of, the pain, cleansing the karma of each generation. So like, that's why a lot of us haven't gone anywhere. It's because of the purity of the karma that we've been left with, because of the pain that we've gone through. That's why so many of us are so resilient. It's not just a matter of how old our ancestry is or where we've come from. It's also the purity of the karma because of what we've been through. That's why we're still here and we're still able to, there are certain things that we're still able to do. Okay, so there's that. And also, the more selfish your deeds and the more what you do is revolved around lies and hatred, is the more karmic debt you have to pay later on. And this can also be, privileged people too. Like, the more selfish your deeds are, the more you got to pay it back. And not just in your present lifetimes, through future generations as well. This is the thing, and this is the brutal truth that I'm about to lay on everybody right now. If you are already at a karmic deficit, you will not clear it in your lifetime. You will not. You will not clear it in your lifetime. It will take several lifetimes to clear that shit. You will not clear any karmic deficits in your lifetime, especially if you already started out with karmic deficits. You will never clear it in your lifetime. Not ever. And the more privileged you are, is the more likely that is to be. And the more you rest in your privilege and the more selfish you are, is the less likely that your karma will clear. And the more likely that future generations will have to pick up your debt. Because just like in economics, where any debt incurred by previous generations is picked up by the current generations and future generations, that's exactly how it works with karma as well. It is an energetic exchange. All of it is about exchange and trade. So sacrifices don't eradicate the debt either. They merely postpone them. You're postponing the debt. That's another thing that a lot of people don't really recognize. You know, sacrifices don't eradicate the debt. There are people who do awful things thinking that, like, if I do this awful thing, then I'll be spared and my bloodline will be spared. It doesn't work like that at all. Not at all. So that's another difficult reality when it comes to magic, when it comes to any form of manifestation. Even if you have nothing to do with spirituality and you're just acting and feeling, and you decide you want to make sacrifices in order to manifest what you want, those things don't come free. And sacrifices do not clear your debt. In fact, in order to perform sacrifices, you have to incur more karmic debt on top of what you already have. You feel me? Unless you're doing something that is of discomfort to yourself, or you're causing yourself, no, even causing yourself pain for selfish reasons ain't going to get you there. Do you understand what I mean? You have to accept what life gives you with grace. And that is the hardest thing in the world to accept. Like, so sacrifices don't eradicate the debt that you have to pay to these entities that you perform magic to. They don't eradicate the debt, they postpone them. And again, just in case there are any religious people thinking that they're spared from this, I want to remind you that monotheistic religions are among the most powerful religions in the world. If you think that you ain't got debt to pay, you're in for a rude awakening. So, the best way to not leave karmic deficit for future generations is to make as many disenfranchised, persecuted, and oppressed people as happy as possible. Any people who are most in need, the more joy you bring to those people, is the more you stand a chance of clearing karmic debt for future generations. And also, this is how public figures are able to keep going. This is how a lot of public figures are able to keep going. The Trump administration didn't start off, when Trump wanted to be president, he didn't start off appealing to rich bastards at the top. He started off appealing to targeted individuals, to people who were ignored, like to the white working class, to the rural white working class who were ignored. That is how you pave the way for whatever it is that that is how you pay for your manifestation work. You appeal to people who are disenfranchised and forgotten. Trump did that. Now he's the president. Now he's manifested his presidency, even though it's not going to go well, right? Same with Obama. Obama appealed to black people. Black people are probably the most hated race on the planet when we've done the least wrong, right? Obama appealed to black people, appealed to brown people, just by being there in the presidency. Like a lot of black people in America say Obama didn't do shit. But just by being there and just by representing black people, it changed so much just by the optics alone. It changed so much for black people, like not even just in America, everywhere. So populist leaders, like they're a really good example of how they've used their karmic deficit to benefit other people. And even now, even when everything's going to shit, the Obamas are still thriving. Still. Because of the type of people that they appeal to. They're still thriving out there. Because LGBTQ plus people, they're being persecuted now. Black people are being persecuted now. Brown people are being persecuted now. So because the Obamas appeal to people who have been the underdogs for millennia, let alone centuries, because the Obamas have appealed to those people and made life happier, brought joy to those people, they're still benefiting from what they've manifested. Even Oprah's done some terrible things, but because of who she created representation for, she's still benefiting from that. I'm just saying, man, that's one of the best ways to, to heal your karmic deficit. That's one of the best ways to do it. You help the most disenfranchised people on the planet. That's how the fuck you do it. And again, I love Magick. Baby, I I love it so much. You have no idea. I love this shit. This is some shit that I live and breathe. I love it with my whole soul. Do you understand? But when you get into the depths of what manifestation work actually means, juxtaposed against karma, you start to understand that this is not stuff to play with. Again, especially baneful magic. If you're going to be wholly a selfish person, you better prepare for your bloodline to pay the price. Even if you give these demons, and some of them are demons, I'm not going to hold you. Even if you give these demons or these fucking entities that you've unknowingly hexed somebody with, even if you you're going to have to pay the price. You're going to have to pay the price. Your bloodline's going to have to pay the price. And it's the same with everyone. So it's not something to play with. It really isn't. Again, I love Magick. I really do. And as disturbing as Magick is, maybe that's the reason I love it so much, is because with Magick, you have to unflinchingly look at reality in the face when you do this magical stuff. You've got to look at reality in the face, and you've got to realize it's not as simple as we want it to be. I love this stuff. But yeah, magic has consequences. Actions have consequences. Why do you think that I have consultancy prices for my magical work, or for the magical work that I give to people? Because it's not just my karma that I'm fucking with, it's other people's karma. I've got to be careful with that. And I've got to make sure that whatever magical work they do, that not only do I get the least blowback from it, but my customers as well. It's something that I have to be responsible with. It's not something to play with. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a complicated thing, but but fortunately, there are always angels. You know what I mean? Angels can provide you with good stuff that you need, ways to take care of yourself. And the wonderful thing is they can give it to you without you having to sacrifice any of your karma. You just can't do bad shit to other people. That's the only thing. You know what I mean? Now I gotta go. Oh, hang on. No. There's something else. There's something else I gotta talk about. What haven't I covered? Yeah. There's always angels. You can pray to angels as well. That leads me on to another point that I want to make about how you can navigate the whole karma and magic thing. You have to be a person of unconditional love, even towards your enemies. You have to have a spirit of forgiveness and a spirit of love. And the more loving and forgiving and kind you are, is the more karma that you have available to be able to manifest with. And also integrity. So it's benefiting the most marginalized in society, being unconditionally loving, being as truthful as possible, meaning your feelings, actions, knowledge, and your desires are aligned and you have integrity. And the more dutiful you are towards doing things that are not of immediate self-interest. So it's those 4 things that will help your manifestation work to be pure and to be powerful without you having to sacrifice too much. And then the 5th thing is that there's always angels. Now, truth be told, when it comes to magic, it's not always going to be demons that show up at your door, but, darker entities, especially with Baneful magic, they get shit done. But if you really want to avoid the karmic fallout from hurting other people, focus on loving yourself. Focus on loving yourself. Like, you can pray to angels. You don't need to perform curses on people. Just make yourself happy. If you are in a position where you feel like you need to make other people miserable, baby, I don't know what to tell you. You're lost in the sauce. So now I gotta go. I think that's what I was supposed to tell you guys. I was supposed to tell you guys about, the happier stuff that the things that you can do to mitigate. That's why, why do you think that all these witches on Witch Talk, 9 times out of 10, they perform white magic? There's a reason for that. So, yeah. That was my presentation on karma and manifestation work, part of Empress Justice Magic. That was a difficult one for me to get through. Boy. That was a difficult one for me to get through. So, yeah, that's it for now. Peace and blessings. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, I got a reading for Empress Justice Tarot I got readings to do for all 12 signs for Anuradha first quarter moon. But if I'm honest with you, I feel like doing the Anuradha first quarter moon video again. I feel like doing it again. I feel like re-uploading. And the reason I feel like re-uploading is because watching the last video with the filter on it, it gave me a headache. I wanted to do something fun and something special for Valentine's Day. The shit gave me a headache to look at. All I can do is play it in the background. So I can't even imagine what it's like for the rest of you. Right? But yeah, I might do it again. If I'm not going to do it again, then I suggest you just have my voice as background noise on some real shit. I hope you got YouTube Premium if you're going to watch that. Or at least keep the fucking, keep the YouTube on in the background and just don't look at it. Just don't look at it. Just don't look at it. Headache. So, yeah. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Hopefully this filter works a little bit better. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Bye bye, my darlings.